Hey, I'm Sheniece Charway, and welcome to Battles and Blessings, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the extraordinary journeys of today's most influential voices. I created this podcast because I believe that everyone's lives, just like the biblical figures, are marked by both battles and blessings. On this podcast, you'll hear some powerful stories that will challenge and uplift you. All right, let's get into today's episode. Hey, Jords.
Hey, Shen.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm actually very excited to have this conversation.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Jords is actually one of my best friends and I'm inspired by her.
Oh.
So I thought it would be perfect for you to come on here. We talk about everything that's been going on, all your successes, and like just get into it. So those who don't know you, could you introduce yourself?
Okay, so hello, my name's Jords. I'm a DJ from London.
You're more, come on, you're not just a DJ.
I'm a DJ. I dabble in music production. I'm founder of Girls Can't DJ, which is an organisation kind of just helping women and non-binary people getting into DJing, showcasing DJs, helping getting them gigs. And it's just a database for female DJs.
Amazing. It's not just a database.
It's a lot more, but it's hard to just explain it.
No, 100%. But it's like you have to make sure that you're bigging up yourself because it's amazing. And loads of people have been able to actually witness Girls That Can't DJ and all the DJs that you have. So that's very exciting. Okay. So I think we should take it back first. Let's take it back. Let's take it way back.
How far are we going, Shen? How much time we got?
Okay, oh God, we've got some time. So we can talk. So let's talk about you as a child. Okay. And like, obviously now you're a DJ. What influences did you have growing up and how do you feel like it's kind of influenced you today?
I definitely would say that music's been a part of my life from even before birth. Like my mum tells me, like she used to play music to her stomach all the time, and I can feel that. Like from, I think I was singing before I was even speaking. Do you know what I mean? But I did definitely grow up in one of those households that like music was always playing, different types of music. My mum's a big music head. My family, I come from a family of musicians, DJs, sound guys. So I really grew up around that. I grew up, going to family parties, like being around sound systems and DJs and from early.
So it seems like music was always part of your life, like you said, even before you were even born.
100%.
And like, I guess that also goes back to like community and your family and like having music in your life has obviously got you to where you are today.
Definitely.
Let's talk about how you started Girls Can't DJ and why you did that.
So I started Girls Can't DJ. It was, as with most things I do, it was a form of rebellion. It was out of like... I was just tired of seeing like a lot of unbalanced lineups, like very male-heavy lineups. And, I'd like reach out to people like, why don't you have any women on your lineups? And when you do, it's like the same one or two. And, people be like, oh, I don't know any female DJs. I don't know. This was obviously like many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I know loads. So that's what inspired me I made a database online and it started off with just like friends and people I knew in my network in London and where you could search DJs by genre. So if you wanted a drum and bass DJ, a hip hop DJ, and then over the years it just grew outside of London, then outside of the UK, and now we have DJs, like hundreds of DJs in all the continents, like from Japan to South Africa to Jamaica, to Canada. And so you can search by city and by genre. So it's like for promoters and also for people, say if you're traveling and you want to hear, R&B in Tokyo, you're like, okay, let me search for a DJ. And it's not an agency, like you can book the DJs.
But can you see where they're playing and stuff?
Yeah, you can see like there's links to like their socials, their email address. So if you want to book them, go ahead. It's just like literally a database where you can find them. Obviously, as time's grown and people have known about it, and I work a lot with brands, a lot of brands start to come to me and like, okay, we want DJs for an event we're doing, and they trust me to curate a lineup.
Which is incredible.
And, I get the opportunity to put on people that, they may have like 400 followers on Instagram, don't have a big profile. A brand maybe necessarily wouldn't look at them, but I know they're going to do a good job and I know that the brand trusts me to provide good DJs. So we also offer that service as well. And it's just about kind of opening the doors. I think when I was coming up as a DJ, there weren't a lot of women at that time in the field. And I know I got to where I was by a lot of people helping me and opening doors and giving me advice, putting me on, and I just want to do the same. I'm very aware that like the industry favors, what's the word? Like, you know, sometimes when there's just like a couple of like DJs that like the
click.
the
This
same,
is quite
but
clicky. Yeah.
And I can realize that I am definitely part of that. As in, like, I'm a DJ that, you know, oh, that brand, they've used her, so
Yeah.
I get reused a lot. So I know that I use that privilege to put other people on, because I know these brands, they trust me. And I'm like, okay, if you want me, you need to look at this girl, or that I can't do this. This may not be right for me, but trust me, put this person. So, you know, and I think there's more and more people doing that, which is nice. Since Girls Can't DJ, there's so many more collectives and similar things. And I just think it's great that, like, you know, empowering, because, you know, when you get to the top, you want to look around and see people that look like you. You know, I don't want to be the only woman. I don't want to be the only black woman, only queer. You know, I want, we should be the majority.
Yeah.
So
you want representation.
In short, there's a detailed more.
Yeah, no, it's great because there's a lot of people that would probably get to the top of their careers or be like, okay, I've made it, and not bring the rest through. So like for you to be able to do that and actually see that there are things that are happening that isn't great, especially if it's like, if it's the same DJs all the time. And most of the time it's easier for people to do that.
Laziness.
Because it's like, okay, I can book you again and again and know that you're going to do a good job. And then sometimes it isn't spaced, quote unquote, because people aren't bringing other people through. So I think it's amazing that you're doing that. And it's allowing people to actually see themselves being represented, and you're actually inspiring the next generation to be like, well, Jords is DJing as a black woman. I can do that as well, because
for sure.
a lot of the time there isn't actually a lot of us in these spaces. So if you only see one, you're gonna be like, oh, there's only space for one. As that's our mentality a lot of the time. There's only space for one.
Exactly, and they've made it like that. So that's how we think.
Yeah,
like, they've made us to compete against each other, but actually we're the ones with the source. Like, it doesn't. We're the ones with the source. Like, we hold the power. So it's just what we do with that power.
Yeah.
Really. That's my philosophy.
And I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you've worked with a lot of brands.
A couple, yeah.
Just a couple. I mean, more than a couple. I think the other day you were DJing with Rihanna, but, you know. How's that experience been for you? And like knowing that, wow, I'm now DJing, but I'm DJing for the biggest brands in the world, the biggest artists in the world. Like,
do you know what? It's mad, because every year I kind of have these meetings, end of year meetings with like my management, and I just had one the other day, and we kind of reflect on what we've done and write down what I want to do next year. And there's things that I wrote down that I've done, but when you're in it, you don't really appreciate. It's just at the time, it's another booking.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have so many bookings and I have that, and that maybe in a few weeks' time, I can't think about it up until the things before that are done. And then when it's maybe a few days before, I'm like, okay, yeah, I've got that gig. And then it just happens so quickly, and you don't even have time to really take in what you've just done. So yeah, it's good to like have those sit downs and just reflect. Like, I had to write down all the stuff I've done. I'm like, oh wow, I've done a lot.
You've done a lot.
I'm a perfectionist and I'm an overachiever by nature. So I always think I'm stagnant. I'm always like, what's next? What more can I be doing? I need to keep moving. Like, that's just, and I need to, you know, it's good because it's
it keeps you humble, keeps you motivated.
Yeah, it does. But also I'm like, okay, I need to stop and smell the flowers. Literally.
Absolutely.
Like,
you got to celebrate your wins. But I think
100%.
it's so hard to celebrate your wins, because you're like, what do I do? Do I take myself out? Do I...
Exactly.
Like, it's hard, but we have to celebrate the wins, because those moments don't come back.
Exactly.
But at least in like 5 years, you can be like, I've done this, 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 and this.
Yeah,
so like,
it's nuts.
It's actually insane. But obviously, it hasn't always been like easy for you, which we mentioned before, in terms of you actually becoming a DJ and putting you on. Like, what things have you felt like you faced when you've become a DJ?
You know, it's a hard road, and I think things have changed so much now. Like, there's so many DJing, so much more accessible now, which is great. There's so many more people like exploring DJing. But at the time that I started, we're talking like over 10 years ago, like it was very different. It wasn't as accessible. It was a very gate-kept community. And I was like, I only started making money recently, like realistically, like I've only been up like the past few years. Like it took a while to get there. So now a lot of people are introduced to me maybe now the past year or 2 or 3 or whatever. But before and like, you know, I was out here struggling, like I was grafting. Yeah, you know, it's been a journey. What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, most people won't know that.
No,
like,
it won't.
If you look on socials, I've seen you been DJing for years and years and years and years. You would think you would up from the get-go.
No, it took years. I've been DJing for over 10 years. And I think I went full-time very brazenly, maybe. God, I lose track of the time.
I know,
maybe like 6 years ago. Maybe 5 years ago I went full-time. But I just did that because I was like, you know, I'm just going to do it. Like, if it's now or never. And I know that I had rent to pay, so I'm going to have to.
do it, yeah.
I have to.
You're like, good.
And yeah, I wasn't happy in like my like day job. I was like, this isn't.
It's not motivating.
It's not motivating me. Like, I was working in TV production. It's so random.
Oh my gosh,
I worked in casting. I did the casting for Tattoo Fixers.
Oh my god,
so
yes.
random.
I just remembered.
Random.
Wow, but then look at that transition and you actually taking the, like, what gave you that, okay, I'm gonna do it? Like, what faith did you have?
I had like, I just believed in myself. So, because I was already DJing, like I was working 9 to 5 and I was just DJing like on the weekends. So I was always, DJing's been a constant. And I just knew that God had me. Like I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew. Like I'm so like, you can call it manifester, faith, whatever you want to, whatever word you use. But you know, when you just know you're going to be successful, I just knew. And I was like, do you know what?
I'm going to do
I believe
this.
in my source. I really do.
Yeah, and God had you.
God had me, man. Come on. With God on your side.
You can never fail.
Do you know what I mean? Amen.
That is so funny. Just talk about like your faith. Like obviously, we just spoke about God. Do you feel like you've had God's presence around you the whole time? Or do you feel like it's got stronger over the years? Or when you were growing up, you knew that God was like always around you?
What's interesting is like, I grew up in the church. I used to go, obviously, forcefully.
Why do we all go forcefully? And then when you get older, you're like, okay, I get it now, but
it's so funny because obviously when I was younger, I went with my grandma every weekend to church. And I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church, which
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they don't play. Seventh-day Adventist, they don't play. Yeah. So yeah, I'd go to church on Saturdays, and it's so funny, like at the time when I was, you know, so in it, I feel like I understand it. And then I came away from it kind of like when I got to an age, because nothing's by force. When you get to a certain age, 16, 17, like, no one's really forcing you to do that.
Yeah, it's like...
You can't tell me nothing. Tell me where to go.
I'm going out.
Like... So yeah, and then I kind of stepped away. And then, you know, life experiences happen. And as an adult, you're able to think things through critically. More bigger life experience happen. And I kind of found my way back into it. But still with questions, still looking at my faith like in a critical lens, not just kind of like taking everything that comes to me, if that makes sense. And I think because of that, my faith is stronger now than when I was younger, like going to church every weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I think also sometimes when it comes down to faith, it's like you have to build your own relationship with God.
100%.
And like when you go to church sometimes, like not that they don't tell you, okay, this is what you need to do or whatever, but like it's hard because you're like, it's not being forced on you, but like, okay, how do I understand God, what he wants me to do? And I think sometimes it's actually taking a step back and being like, okay, let me figure out who he is in my life.
Exactly.
And like, and you're allowed to ask questions. Before I would be like, you're not allowed to, but it's like, no, you have to. That's what you do with your friends.
Yeah.
So you like, you keep him as like another friend of yours and be like, hey, I don't understand this. Why is this happening?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot of the time, especially with our lives. Like we're always going up and down with like battles and blessings and like, why is this happening to me? What is the reason? And all those things. So like,
exactly.
It is very, very like interesting. And I feel like we're always learning. Like,
definitely.
It's not easy.
I'm inquisitive and rebellious by nature. So if I'm asking why and I'm being told I just need to like follow blindly, I'm like, no. Like, no. Why though? Like, why? Like, you know, and you have people just say it just because that's just the way it is. I'm like,
It's like, let me actually question that.
Yeah. And I think it's separating God from a religion as well.
Yes.
I think that was like a big part of it for me.
Explain that a little bit more.
Away from the church and just having my individual relationship.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time people say that you have to go to church to have a relationship with God.
No.
And that's what I used to struggle with. I was like, oh, but I know that he's there and I can feel him around me.
100%.
But sometimes you don't even find, like, it's hard to find the right church. I've only just found the right church. And that's also another journey within itself.
For
sure. So I think sometimes it's like, okay, this is the relationship I have with him.
Yeah.
And it's my relationship. No one can really question that. But a lot of the time everyone feels like they know what's best for you.
No.
And knowing you, I know you're like,
you know
no.
me, boy. Oh,
you're
Lord.
No. So let's take it back for a second. I wanted to talk about Black Joy Archives.
Okay, yeah.
And I just think that's like something so incredible that you've created. And
Thank you.
It is, for people that don't know, do you want to give a little bit of a background on it?
Okay, yeah, sure. I love it. I never talk about things I do.
Yeah, no, but it's good because I'm like,
yeah.
Again, going back to earlier what we were talking about, is like you bringing people through and like making sure that the happiness that you had in your household when you were listening to music, you've allowed people to kind of be brought into that.
Exactly.
And I think it's really special, like Joy Archives. I want to talk about it.
Okay, so I'll talk, basically, long story short, Black Joy Archives was a radio show that I started in lockdown. And it was at the height of like, you know, Black Lives Matter movement really popping off and George Floyd. And there was just like such high racial tension. And I was in lockdown with my housemates we were all Black. So, I mean, it was healing, but also it was like really triggering at the same time. And we were just angry. Like, you know, in lockdown, whoever you were really in lockdown with, that's your echo chamber, really. And I was with like 2 Black guys and then another girl, and we were all just so angry, like, and it just felt like we were just angry for so long. And I remember the first time we had a good laugh in ages, we were talking about a memory and it was music related. And then I was like, nah, this is the first time like we've actually laughed or had like a light conversation in weeks, guys. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's something in this. And we all grew up in different parts of London and we all had this collective memory about this song and this artist. I won't get into detail, but yeah, it's funny. And I was like, nah, and then it got me thinking. And then I was like, this is interesting. And then I started putting together like a playlist of just songs that I had like really interesting memories from. And then I started like calling like friends and family, like, you know, in lockdown, we just spent so much time on the phone, like on little chat rooms. And I was talking to like my mom, uncle, friends, cousins, like, if you had to pick a song, like, and that's how it started. And then I made that into a playlist that I would just listen to. And every time I'd listen to a song would come up, I'd remember what that person said about it. And it literally was just my like happy place at that time. It really just like reminded me at a time when there was so much negative connotations around like Blackness and there was so much anger and it was just so dark and, you know, everything was just so negative.
Yeah.
It reminded me that there's actually so much joy and beauty and like goodness in being black.
Yeah.
And how like music is such like we have such a shared experience no matter like what part of how old you are, what part of the world you live in. There's songs that collectively we have like, you know, really beautiful memories of. so that playlist, and then I shared that playlist with like some people, and then it became a thing. And then I was like, oh, let me make this into a radio show. Literally, very organically, like, and yeah, that's how it started, basically. And that's the radio show. It's on pause for the moment because I was just trying to find the right home for it.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time, like putting the production together, collecting the voice notes, doing the edit, and it's so special. So I feel like it's like a special like thing that I'm going to start doing more one-off rather than like monthly or bi-monthly. But yeah, that's Black Joy Archives, basically.
Yeah, no, it's great. I was lucky enough to be a part of it.
Yeah,
but like,
you were on the first episode.
I was on the very, no, but I just thought it was so nice, and that's actually one of the memories I have from lockdown.
Really?
Yeah, because it was like, it was hard because we're all in these spaces where we're at home, you're not seeing your friends, you're going for an hour walk if you could be bothered, and like what was making us happy? There was nothing.
Exactly.
You watch on the news and it's just like everything that's going on, and then I think we all felt like, oh, we're really Black. That was a point when you were like, oh, if you didn't know you were Black,
yeah.
You know you
After
knew.
that, you knew, boy.
And yeah, exactly. And when you went back and you're talking about like the negative connotations, it was actually giving us joy and be like, there's actually so much happiness with being Black. It doesn't always have to be negative.
Exactly. And I think at that time we all forgot, like got lost in it. And with COVID, it was such an uncertain time. We didn't know what the future held. So kind of looking back and a bit of nostalgia was comfort at that time as well.
100%.
So yeah.
So thank you for that.
You're very welcome, Shen. Thank you.
Thank you
for contributing.
No, so let's like talk about 2020 a little bit more.
Okay.
So obviously you mentioned about George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, but there's also other things that happened in 2020. So let's talk about that a little bit more.
So yeah, so at the beginning of 2020, I had a cardiac arrest, and it came after like a year of being unwell, but not really know what was going on, going to like A&E and the doctors and just being told, I had anxiety or I was overworked or chest infections, vertigo. I was diagnosed with literally everything under the sun. And when you're unwell and it happens slowly over time, it's just, I look back and I'm like, how could like I not see, like how was I powering through?
It's hard.
But it's just so hard. And when you're going to healthcare professionals and they're experts in the fields are telling you there's nothing wrong with you, you're like, oh, okay, like I must just be tired. Like there was a time I was DJing maybe like 4 times in a weekend. Like on a Friday, Saturday night, I'll be in Brixton 9 till 10, then in Dalston 1 till 2, then back in Peckham 4 till. Do you know what I mean? Like
just
I was doing back and forth every weekend. Like I think it was like maybe like 2 years or so into me like going full time. So I was still very much in the
grind and hustle.
Not saying no to a gig, like making it work. So I was like, maybe like
you're just tired.
Yeah, maybe I'm just tired.
Yeah.
But and I'm someone that's I've literally broken bones before and not even gone to like a doctor. Like as in like I take a paracetamol. No, but I'm such a it's calm. Like I wasn't even registered really at a doctor's. Like so for me to like in the space of a year go to A&E 4 times, like I was like I knew like I was like something's not right. But I was unfortunately undiagnosed and I had a cardiac arrest in the beginning of 2020. And then the nightmare, it just didn't end. It didn't end. Then I had open heart surgery, had like valve replacements, pacemaker fitted. And then afterwards I just remember still not feeling 100%.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, like this is surely not.
After all of that,
surely. Yeah. And then so I would like check in with the doctors and I knew what to look out for. And again, they're like, it's fine. You're anxious. Don't worry. And I was like, you guys sure? I don't know. And then again, like it was like history repeating itself, literally. And then it got to a point where I was just gaslit so much that I was like, damn, maybe this is anxiety. And then, yeah, luckily I was in a position, it got to the point in 2022, beginning of 2022, where I was in a position, luckily, that I could afford at least a consultation appointment private.
Which is sad that you had to go through all of that, and then it has to be private.
Exactly. And that alone, like, just anything to do with heart, with private healthcare, when you already have existing problems, it's so expensive. Like, I think the consultation on its own was like $2,000 just for the consultation. So, you know, it's not cheap. That's not doing any tests. That's no blood. That's just nothing. That's a consultation. So I was like, and bear in mind, this is after, you know, lockdown, like people aren't having, no one's making money.
Yes.
But I was like, nah, this is my life. I'm not well. And she was like, girl, you're in heart failure. Like, this is insane. And she felt so bad for me. Bless her. I'll never forget her. She did like so much tests that she didn't even charge me for, because she's just like, I cannot believe that, like.
So the NHS diagnosed you wrong?
Yeah, again. And she like wrote to them.
Yeah. Like
wrote to my surgeon, was just like, this is my report. You have to. And still they kind of ignored it. And, you know, so much happened. This is where I feel my faith like completely changed. Basically, I had a gig in Manchester, and I wasn't, now we're talking like early 2022, like springtime. I had a gig in Manchester, and I collapsed while I was there. And I was like, nah, it's getting bad again. Like, I'm starting to lose, because before my cardiac arrest, I was losing consciousness like 4 or 5 times a day.
Wow. I didn't know this.
Yeah. And I was like, nah, it's happening. And then on the train back, I called my friend, Elsie, big up Elsie. And at the time, it's weird. I didn't know Elsie very well. I've known her maybe like a couple months. And with me, like, as you said, you didn't know this. I'm very, like, I kept a lot of things to myself, because I didn't want to worry people. So I wasn't even really speaking to my close friends about this. So it was so I don't know what. I do know God made me call her. I don't know what, like, why on earth did I call her? It's so right. Even still now, I'm like, what made me call her? And I called her, and she used to work in healthcare.
Okay.
And I remember she was a nurse, and she said to me, when you get back to London, go to St. Thomas's. It's the best hospital. I will meet you there.
Oh, she met you there.
I didn't know her like that, you know.
Yeah, God sends angels.
I don't know why. It's still now. And then I went there, and from then the team at St. Thomas's, they're like, we want to take over your healthcare.
Amazing.
And so I switched trusts, and they did the tests with me like straight away, and they were like, yeah, we're getting you in for surgery straight away. You're in heart failure.
So the same day you went?
So it took like, I had to change like all my medical records. So it took like, and then I needed a transplant.
Yeah.
For parts of my heart. So we had to wait until like I had the right donor.
Wow.
So yeah, and then January. So that was maybe around, I think by the time we changed everything, it was maybe September 2022. And then I had the surgery again, exactly like 3 years
after your first one.
Yeah, January 2023. Exactly. And to the day, it was the same day. Weird, isn't it?
Wow.
Very weird.
What?
Very weird.
Was it January? No, was it January?
Yeah, it was January 2023. Was it 23 or 22? I'm getting confused.
No, you had, so your first...
What year are we in now?
You had 2024. You 2024, because I remember you calling me during lockdown when it happened. It was
it was 2023.
Yeah.
The second one,
The second one, so 2 years, yeah. The same day.
The same day.
It's like God came to fix it and was like, we're doing this again.
It was weird, and it was a stressful, obviously I've given you like the kind of like the snapshot, top line.
But that's 2 years of...
But it was just hell. Like, from 2019, that whole period from 2019 to 2023, hell. Absolute hell.
How did you get through that? Because it's like, we were all in lockdown. You're DJ.
Yeah.
People not having events. People are not. Everything's online, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get through that? And then on top of that, knowing that, okay, I have health issues that I'm being neglected.
Yeah.
And like, how did you get through that?
I don't know. God, honestly, like it was, and that's the thing with like big surgeries like that. You'd think like physically, yeah, obviously it's very painful and it's a hard recovery, but mentally, like
it's a whole nother ball game.
Oh my God, and to it twice, like honestly, it nearly broke me.
You're still here.
It didn't, but yeah, mentally, and it's still something, you know, I struggle with today. This is the first time, obviously, like, you know, really talking about it quite openly, and it's because it's you and I trust you, but it's still something I definitely like. I really, yeah, it's hard.
Lot.
It's traumatic.
It is traumatic because it's like you know yourself as well, like, do you know what I mean? And you're telling someone something's not okay with me. It's not okay with me, and you're not a medical professional. Like, so you can only push so much, and I think
exactly
that it also goes back. Like, Black women get neglected so much, and it's sad because it's just like if you didn't have determination to be like, no, there's something going on, it could be a different story. So we have to thank God that
this is it. Like, if I think like if I didn't advocate for myself the way I did, if I couldn't have afforded that private, like, there's so much things. I'm like, God, there's so many people that, you know, English may not be even their first language.
Yeah.
And the healthcare system's just failing them. And then it's hard because it's like, it's so easy to speak about the NHS as a whole. But I know people personally, like one of my best friends, she's worked in the NHS her whole life and she's one of the best. And I would trust her with my life. And there's so many nurses that, you know, I dealt with, or doctors that were absolutely fantastic. But then there's also a lot of people that aren't. And also it's the system and it's the government and it's so hard. Like, it's hard, like, that was another thing. It's like you want to blame. I struggled for so long because I was just so angry because I couldn't pinpoint necessarily one person to blame, and I didn't know who I was angry at, and I was like, I didn't know what to do with this anger. You know me, I'm not necessarily an angry person by nature, but I was just so angry and so frustrated for so long. And it's so hard when you see like the government and how they're still like nothing's being done to really change or reform the NHS or to help people. And I just think of so many people that are suffering because of it.
Yeah, and that might not even have the means to be like, okay, I need to get a private consultation.
And they just don't see us. And it's even like, even like training of unconscious bias, like the amount of times like I went in and, you know, when someone looks at you away, you know exactly what they're thinking. And the amount of times that happened, like they see me, I say I'm a DJ. Oh, okay, yeah.
And they just automatically assume things.
Automatically, because I'm young and like cardiac arrest in young people isn't
common.
It's not common, but it happens.
Yeah, it
and you need
happens.
to, you know, be aware of it. But people are so quick to judge by appearance, by lifestyle or assumed lifestyle. Unfortunately, that I suffered the brunt of it, and I know that Black women is statistically proven that we do, and it's so sad that this is our reality. And I want to. We have to change it. I'm changing it. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna.
I know you.
I'm
will.
gonna do something.
You will, and I'll be right behind you because, like, you obviously know, like, sometimes even me with my surgery and being misdiagnosed, it was like, what? No, that is definitely not the right thing.
It's hard,
and you're like, okay, I just have to get through it. Just know that God's there, but also it is mentally taxing.
It is.
And that's something that people don't talk about enough. Like, it's like, oh, you're gonna have surgery or something's going on, but no one actually, it might be physically, but mentally, no one understands.
Mentally, it's the worst. It's honestly like, I think like, how did I get through it? And it is God. And it's honestly, and I'll say this like with my whole heart, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you, Sheniece.
Oh?
I wouldn't.
Oh?
No, I wouldn't.
Why are you saying that?
You know why. I wouldn't. Like,
no, okay.
I think it's important to have like, and I say that because I think it's important to like, when you're going through tough times to really talk to your people. You know, things after my first surgery, I got to a point of like, you know, I was advocating for so long, like to the healthcare professionals, to my surgeon, to anyone that would listen, like, I'm not well. I recognize the signs. This feels exactly like what happened before. And, you know, now they know my history. They know everything that's happened. And they're still saying that I have anxiety. Like, they're giving me beta blockers.
Wow.
For anxiety. And I'm like, I'm not taking that. I'm not anxious. And then it got to a point they wore me down after over a year of me them saying I'm anxious, them doing tests. I was like, okay, maybe I am. And I was like, if this is anxiety, I can't live like this. I can't live like this. And like, you know, I was like, it got to a point where I just felt like I wasn't listened to. I wasn't heard. I was so unwell. I knew I was unwell. I was like, okay, either I am unwell again, or this may be anxiety. Something's happening. I knew. So, you know, I was like, I'm gonna induce a heart attack. You know, I got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna do it. And so I had a plan. I was literally, I shouldn't laugh, it's not funny. But you know, I was gonna like either go on a Peloton or like go on, you know, just I knew at that point, even having a conversation, I'd get out of breath by talking. Like I'm saying, I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. I was so unwell. So getting my heart rate up, going on a little jog, I know what would have happened, right? And so I had this planned out. I was like, I have to, because either I can't live like this, or at least they'll take it seriously and give me surgery.
Which is
but I was
insane.
like, I felt like I had no other choice. And again, one day God told me to call you. I don't know why. And I think I wanted also to like just see the people I loved before I did this.
And that...
And you were the first person on my list. And then
Is that right? Jords, I'm so proud of you.
Sorry.
No, I'm actually so proud of you. I'm trying my best not to cry because I actually need you to get through this because...
Nah, I remember going to your house and I called you and it was like a Tuesday afternoon. I'm the worst at calling my friends at work 9 to 5s, just in the middle of a day on a weekday. But for whatever reason, you were free.
Shock. I just don't know how that happened.
You were home.
Yeah.
And so I went round straight away because obviously you live 5 minutes away. And then the plan wasn't to tell you how I was feeling, but it just, you know, I just told you, and you know, you you're oh thanks.
I'm trying. I don't know how. I'm literally holding back.
No, you
Thank you.
I told you how I was feeling and what I was planning to do, and you know, get my funeral plans ready just in case. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, and you sat and, you know, you prayed with me. And that was honestly, when I say like changed my perspective on everything. And I was at a point where I couldn't fight anymore. Like, I was really... You know, I was at the end, like I didn't have it in me. I'd been fighting for years and years and years at this point, and just really unwell. And you honestly, you just sitting and praying with me, and like I left your house with a new strength, and shortly after, that's when, you know, St. Thomas's were like, okay, we're gonna get you in for surgery. Like, we changed care, and like just the way everything after that day, like my perspective changed, and I was like, no, I have to fight. Like, I'm gonna be okay. And yeah, I can't thank anyone other than God as well. Like,
It's always God.
It really is. Like, he made us have that conversation, and yeah, it's just yeah. Because my headspace, I was in such like a negative like end, like I'd given up. I was talking about it as though,
It was happening, and
it
then
was happening, and you were like,
it's not happening. And I think what was mad about that was because for me, obviously, I know how incredible you are as a person, full stop. And I was like, God, why? Like, for me, it even for a second made me question. I was like, God, what? But why Jords? Like, why would, not even selfishly, I was like, why would you do that to me? Like, why would you take someone away that I adore with my whole life? So that day when we came out and prayed, that was God speaking through me, because you know me, I've only really started really understanding like my faith.
yeah,
But that day God was like, she's gonna be fine. I need you to speak this over her. And like, I thank God that he even allowed me to be a vessel to allow you to feel like, okay, do you know what, I can do this? Because that talk was something I will remember for the rest of my life, because
Yeah,
I was
same.
like, I cannot, if I could do anything to change your perspective, or just know that God is there. And
Yeah.
like, even starting this like podcast, it's like, because I know we all go through battles and blessings, but that the things that you've done after that, Jords, like it's insane. And I think it's just like God saying like, Jords, I'm always going to be there. There's going to be ups and downs, but like, he is there, and I'll always be your prayer warrior. You know this anyway.
No, for real.
I'll always be praying for
You,
you.
my grandma, boy. You got me
Covered.
good. Yeah, praying. Everyone needs a praying grandma and a praying Sheniece.
No, it's 100%. So like, I genuinely thank God, genuinely thank him that like he got you to call me that day, because
for real. No, honestly, like it's scary to think back and I look at how I was feeling and the mindset I was in, and it's just like, I look back and I wish I could just shake myself.
yeah, but it's hard. It's
But
hard.
it's so hard, like when you're in, and this is why I say like it's so important when you're in that space to like just talk to someone, anyone, because if I didn't speak to you that day, I don't know where I'd be, honestly, and that's the truth.
Obviously, this is like, it was such a big part, and I think just even like seeing all the stuff that you've been able to do now is just so powerful, Jords. And I don't think I'm even like it just makes me so happy, because I know how great you are, and I know that was so hard. And even you doing like the boiler room, and you again putting other people in front of you, do you know what I mean? It's like you've gone through this stuff, you're like, I want to make sure that people are aware what's happened to me, and like how they can help and ensure that if people are going through similar things, how can we as a community make sure we have the knowledge? It's all about knowledge as well, because I think a lot of the time we don't know, we get misdiagnosed all the time because no one actually talks about like what the symptoms, how you're feeling. But like, it's, to me, I'm just so grateful that you've been able to like do all these things. So let's talk about a little bit more of like what you've done after your surgery, like boiler room, like all this. Like, we could be here for days talking about everything, but like showing that battle has turned into so many blessings.
No, honestly, and it's like since that, it's just like my life has just changed, like as in definitely career wise, I'd say. And it's like, okay, this is why I was kept here, because there was a big part of me that was like, maybe I should have died like the first time it was an accident. Because even after my cardiac arrest, like the doctors were like, it's crazy that you've survived this. Like it was literally a miracle. I wasn't looking at it as a miracle. I was like, oh, it's a mistake. And now I'm getting mine. Now it's time. And then I realized, no, like this is how it was meant to be. I was meant to go through this. So I could appreciate, everything that I have now. But, and I look, every time I do something like big or anything that's been on my bucket list, there is a part of me that's like, I still go back and like, wow, imagine if like I wasn't here. So many times I just look at, I'm like, even like meeting my partner or like certain gigs I do or people I meet, and I'm like, if I wasn't here, none of this would have happened. And it's hard because obviously this is definitely the first time I've even like, you know, spoken about this so in depth, or even to end like, you're really about that conversation me and you had. You're the only person in this world that up until this point now knew this, not even my mom. So, you know, it's going to be a bit of a shock, I'm sure, for people to hear, but I think it's important that we do speak about things like this and like use our platforms, because there's so many people that go through it. And it's been hard for me to speak about it because I still feel like I am going for like the aftermath of it. You know, I'm still mentally 100% still recovering. I still definitely have PTSD. But yeah, I just want to use my platform as much as possible to, I guess, raise awareness and keep doing God's work, really.
And you are doing it.
Yeah, I want to raise money for charities. Like I want to, I don't know how, but I want to try and make some sort of reform or change in government or the way, you know, it works. Like I'm taking it to the top.
You are.
I'm fighting the man.
You will. You're a walking testimony. And I know like people might say that's cliche or whatever, but you are. And like there's so many stories in the Bible when you're like, oh, God, this because he needed you to be a walking testimony. He trusted you to be like, I know you can do this. And you're a walking testimony to let people know that there are things that will happen in your life.
Definitely.
But the blessings that will come out of it are
100%.
second to none. So like
100%.
I'm just excited because I know that you've actually only just touched the surface.
Yeah.
So when I call you, when I call you and it goes to voicemail because someone changed their number because they're too big time for me, then I'm gonna like, okay, cool. I remember that.
Never that. But yeah, it's just yeah. I feel like I'm going from strength to strength.
You are.
And I've caught my stride. Like I have great management that are just like
they're
so
incredible.
Supportive, so incredible. And yeah, it's just up. The only way is up.
The only way is up. And I'm so excited for you because I just know that you're going to continue to change lives. You're going to continue to bring women through. You're going to continue to champion people. Make sure that people know that there is Black joy.
Yeah.
as well.
Facts.
We could be happy and we could be Black.
Facts.
And that is one thing that we always have to remember.
Facts.
So I'm excited. Thank you so much, Jords.
Thank you, Shen.
I've enjoyed this conversation.
You know, it's been a roller coaster. I don't know if I'll be able to watch it back, but I've enjoyed being here.
No, I just want to say thank you because obviously you're one of my best friends. Like you're going to be a bridesmaid at my wedding.
Yeah,
but
you're
like,
cool, innit? Like, I know you.
This banner. Anyways, we're off cam. But just be able to like share your story, which I think is just so important. And being able to do that. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me because you're going to change lives. You're going to touch people. And like, you never know, you could even save someone because be like, actually, I've had these symptoms and I've been neglected. So like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Shen. Thank you.
Yay, hugs. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. We all go through ups and downs. So I hope this episode brought you some comfort. Remember, don't get complacent during your blessings and do not give up during your battles. Please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe. I'm Sheniece Charway and you just listened to Battles and Blessings.